Death Note is undeniably one of the best anime ever. The cat and mouse chase and mind games between world-renowned detective L
I'll give you this strawberry if you keep it a secret, okay?
and Light Yagami create one of the most interesting plots in anime and even media history. The descent into madness from genius star student Light Yagami into power-hungry psychopathic serial killer turned self-proclaimed god of the new world,
I will become the god of this new world.
Kira. Seriously, can you think of an item and plot device relevant to any existing anime more iconic than the Death Note? Kids were getting suspended at school for this shit, dude.
The girl told authorities she was copying a children's TV show called Death Notes. The Lakewood local school staff and detectives did take it seriously. The girl was questioned and suspended, even though officials eventually agreed that a threat was not intended.
I can only maybe think of the Sharingan from Naruto, or Now, at first I wasn't a huge fan of Death Note. I was only gonna watch it because I just knew it was essential for any anime fan. I had just finished Code Geass maybe a month or so prior, and I thought the similar sort of mind games would be a good transition series to go to before I watched Hunter x Hunter, Monster, Steins Gate, or anything else I had on my watch list. Under the recommendation of 2 of my 4 roommates who were massive fans of the show, I said fuck it, okay, and I watched it. I liked what little I understood in the first watch through. Seems to be a recurring problem with me in certain shows, but we're not going to bring that up. After rewatching a few times through, I can safely say, all things considered, this is probably the best anime I've ever watched. The characters, motivations, soundtrack, plot, accessibility. To me, it ticks off every box for a perfect show. But there's a problem that most fans of the series have.
皆さん、死にが
See, the first half of the anime is honestly incredible, like a straight-up masterpiece. The chase, suspense, logic, constant interest, characters, motivations, how they affect the story, especially how we're introduced to the fact Misa is the second Kira and has Shinigami eyes, but turns out to be fairly unintelligent.
I'm beginning to get a really bad feeling about this whole thing. I mean, I know that Light trusts me totally, but don't you think most people would start saying I'm cheating on him? Oh, he'd be so jealous.
Nier and the others told me that this woman's supposed to be the second Kira, but could it really be this unbelievably stupid girl?
And when introduced, throws a massive curveball to Light to figure out how to get use out of her without upsetting the other Shinigami in the human world at this point, Rem, so that Rem does not kill Light. As a whole though, it keeps you wondering and interested, and definitely confuses you. I'm looking at you, Light's master plan scene, though on further watch throughs it makes a lot more sense to me now. Misa gets captured, then Light gets captured, and then gives up the Death Note to Ryuk, who gives it to Rem, who gives it to
someone with status who lusts for power and money.
a member of the Yotsuba group, who then begins killing people in charge of competing corporations to the Yotsuba group, and then L, Misa, and Light, who at this point gave up memories of the notebook, all hunt after the Yotsuba group Kira, track down and get the notebook, at which point Light has to kill the Yotsuba group Kira without taking his hands off the notebook. Once Light regains his memory and kills Higuchi, he has Misa play bait to lure L into his death via manipulating Rem to save Misa from suspicion and potentially the death penalty if she was caught killing with the notebook. L dies, and instantly I and many other people I know lost interest in the show entirely, but I still decided to watch to see what would happen. Not that Nier and Mello are bad characters per se, even though I personally despise Nier for that ending that he very clearly cheated on. They aren't enough, especially on their own, to replace the void that L left, and it definitely does not help that Ryuk makes even less scenes than he did before. But are the new characters really that bad to the point where they drag the series down? No. But also, yes. See, at least in the anime, Nier undergoes absolutely none of the development that L or Mello go through, leaving him cold and calculated, and rather unconcerned about anything else during the entire second half. His only focus is catching Light and nothing else. I could not give half of a fuck what happens with Nier when he appears in a scene. He just twirls his hair, plays with dice and little toys, and goes, "Hya hya, Light Yagami is Kira," which is weird because earlier in the show, L says the exact same thing to the NPA task force, and they all go, "What? No way."
If I die within the next few days, your son is Kira.
What did you just say, Ryuzaki?
Multiple times, in fact, up until Soichiro has to act like he's going to kill Light, but then 10 or so episodes later, here comes Nier's sorry ass, "Hya, Light is Kira," and they all freak out and go, "What?" And then after a confession about how being Kira lowered crime rates, and then going, "You'll have to kill me or Mikami with a notebook to prove it's real," and then he gets so egotistical and power reliant he thinks he can kill everyone with a scrap of notebook he kept in his watch, and then Matsuda shoots him 6 times. Well, I watched Death Note in its entirety again just to make this video, and I will say no. The second half is not bad. Of course it won't be as good as the first half, because L and Light's character dynamic is gone, but also we don't really see Light figure out how to use the notebook very often before. We just see him direct Mikami sometimes and defend from Nier in the SPK, and now the distrusting NPA members. Nier is the obvious, I'm L's true successor, and Mello causes chaos to lure out Light and tire him out, before Nier sets up the meeting at the very end. Right after L's death though, I think the funeral scenes are some of the best, which unfortunately they're only in Relight. But this man Light is literally twerking on L's grave.
This is my perfect victory! That's right! I win!
Canonically 12 or so episodes before he doesn't win. It might be fucked up for me to say this, but the scene where the kidnapping occurs and Matt is stopped by police only to die immediately after saying, "You won't shoot," is kind of funny. You're telling me this man is the third smartest detective from Whammy's house after Mello, Nier, and L? I think one of the better highlights of the second half is when we are introduced to Teru Mikami, who is a very entertaining character that unfortunately becomes the downfall of Light. Since Nier had to cheat to win, and had Mikami's notebook replaced with a fake, leading to the written names of the Japanese National Police Agency Kira Task Force, and the special provision for Kira members not having heart attacks and exposing Mikami and Light as Kira and ex-Kira respectively. It definitely did not help that Mikami wrote Kiyomi Takara in the notebook only a minute after Light did too, further exposing Light to the SBK as Kira. I think the reason the second half of Death Note is looked down upon is because there aren't enough episodes. For example, the first half is pretty much episodes 1 through 25, and the second half is episodes 26 through 37. Like a similar show, if it were like Code Geass, which is separated as 2 seasons into 25 episodes each, for a total of 50 episodes, compared to the 37 of Death Note. I think the characters, especially Mello, Nier, Mikami, the SPK, really every new character in the second half, would have had plenty of time to develop. I mean, timing seems to be the biggest issue. Even in the manga, Nier gets much more time to develop, and we start to understand him more as a character. But we don't get any of that in the anime. We just get the snotty kid Nier. I'm not gonna lie, in the Relight movies, I love the scene where Mikami kills every SPK member besides Nier, and then Nier's goofy ass calls Light just to give him the silent treatment. Although, the ending is a big issue for many as well. I think a lot of people wanted Light to win, but besides the fact he didn't win against Nier in the SPK, it's the fact that Nier won by effectively cheating. I think if there was more character development and more time spent with Nier, people would not have been so upset. That and the fact that Nier basically cheated to win. I think I'll always be a fan of this alternate ending where Mikami kills everyone and then Light rules as Kira, then having Ryuk kill him only to go to the Shinigami realm where he suffers every single death that he ever caused, only to go and bargain with the god of Shinigami, putting an end to Death Note. At least, that's how I would have preferred it to end, but of course, it did not end like that. Light gets arrogant with power, then gets shot multiple times by Matsuda only to run away and be killed by Ryuk via heart attack in the middle of the staircase, symbolizing how he's neither going to heaven nor hell, like mentioned at the beginning of the show. So, the final verdict. No. The second half of Death Note is not as good as the first half. That's a given. With more time and more episodes, it could have been much more fleshed out, and it could have been as good, but it for sure is not as bad as people like to say it is. Thank you for watching. Oh, and if you made it all the way to the end, I have but one thing to say to you.
It's over. You've lost the game.